welcome. I am Lou Betya. I am your host, here to handicap the Belmont Stakes 2023, a Test of the Champion. I'm clearly here live from the Belmont Stakes 2 years ago, as you can see behind me. Uh, Thank you for watching. I'm going to keep this quick. I feel like the people that are watching this really just want to get to the picks and not hardcore analysis, which is great because I am not a professional at capping the horses. I've been betting them for years. I love it. I know how to look for value. I know what to look for. There are tons of people on the space that are better than me. I'd recommend Trust the Profits. They have absolutely great material out there. They've helped me immensely, but I had a great Kentucky Derby. I did a 5-horse box trifecta, 50-cent bet, paid $491. I did pick the winner at the Preakness, National Treasure. I lost my exotics because I didn't have Blazing Sevens hitting second. But let's see what we can do on this race. It's a 9-horse field. I'm going to pull this up right now. I'm looking at DK Horse right now since it's already up. If you're new to this kind of betting, a few things I want to bring up. Yes, you can pick a winner, but in a field with 9 horses, sometimes you're not going to get a lot of value just for picking an outright winner. So the way we're going to look to attack this is going to be with exotics, exacta bets, which is just picking the top 2, trifectas, top 3, superfectas, top 4. This is the last race of the Triple Crown. The Belmont is the longest race. We have no possibility of a Triple Crown this year, but this field is the strongest field that we've had in all 3 of the races for me. So let's go over the horses one by one, real quick things, pros and cons, and then let's get to what the betting strategy is going to be. So let's start with number 1, Tap It Choose, 20-1 odds right now. Jose Ortiz is the jockey. It's a Brad Cox horse. He has 3 horses in this race. It's a sire of Tap It. So Tap It has produced 4 horses that have won the Belmont. That's going to be very important as we go through the horses real quick. So Tap It Choose taking a step up in competition here, pretty lightly raced. But there's 2 things I really like about this horse. Number 1, it drew the rail, drew the number 1 spot. Historically, the Belmont has produced the most winners from the number 1. If you watch Kentucky Derby where you have about 20 horses, typically being on the rail is disadvantage. You kind of get crunched in. You don't get to actually break from the pack. At the Belmont, 9 horses, it shouldn't be much of a problem. It's stalker. It's not going to get an early lead, but it's built for distance. All the sires of Tap It have been built and bred for distance. So I like that it's improved speed figures over its last 4. I definitely think we're going to consider Tap It Choose when we get to the bets in a little bit. No red flags for me there, except that it's a step up in competition. Tap It Trice coming in as a 3-1 favorite on the morning line, 3-1 number on the morning line. Louis Saez, the jockey. It is one of the 2 Todd Pletcher horses, another sire of Tap It. Todd Pletcher has been very good at winning this race as well. Tap It Trice is probably, if this horse runs its best race, probably the second best horse in the field. So I think the 3-1 odds are justified. The big red flag I have on Tap It Trice is it ran an absolutely horrendous worst case scenario race, the Kentucky Derby. Didn't break well out of the gate. It's not a horse that tends to break well, period. But it broke pretty badly. It got stuck behind the pack, much like Angel of Empire did, which we'll get to in a second. And it never really got its chance to just free roll down the track to really get in any kind of contention. It just got lost in the shuffle, got stuck behind the pack. So I don't think that'll be the case here with 9 horses, but it's something that you have to consider that on the big stage, this horse did not run its best race. Number 3, Arcangelo, 8-1. I'm incredibly interested in this horse. This is going to be one of my win contenders for sure. It's another lightly raced horse. Jenna Antonucci is the trainer. I'm going to talk about Javier Castellano in a second because him being the jockey for this horse is important. So Arcangelo is another one like Tap It Choose. It's taken a step up in competition. Another one that's been lightly raced, but the speed figures have dramatically improved for this horse every single time it's been out, which you love to see. Javier Castellano rode Mage, and Mage won the Kentucky Derby. Mage is not running in this race, obviously, after coming up short in the Preakness. So I think it's very telling that Castellano chose Arcangelo as his horse for this race. So at 8-1, I think we got a lot of value here, which we'll get to soon. National Treasure in the 4 slot, 5-1. Velasquez is the jockey. This is the Bob Baffert horse in my history. I've always had a really fun time picking the wrong Baffert horse for races. Can't do that here. There's only one of them. There's a lot I don't like about National Treasure in this race. I'm not worried about that it ran 3 weeks ago. It seems like the conditioning's fine. What I worry about here, and this is an important trend for the Belmont being 1.5 miles, it's very rare you see a wire-to-wire winner. We've only seen 3 in the last 20 plus years. 2 of them have won the Triple Crown. So that's the class of horse it takes to go wire-to-wire here on the longest track these horses are going to face. National Treasure got out to an early lead at the Preakness, went wire-to-wire, held off Blazing Seventh at the end, ran a great race, but it also ran a race against a lesser field and a slower pace. I don't think we're going to see a slower pace here. So whereas I do think National Treasure and Il Miracolo, who we'll get to, are probably going to be the horses that set the pace here, I don't think the National Treasure can sustain it for 1.5 miles. I think there are better horses here that are going to be able to pass National Treasure as this race goes on. And I'm actually going to toss National Treasure from any trifectas that I do. Number 5 horse, Il Miracolo, not really much to say here. This horse doesn't really have any kind of chance as far as I'm concerned. I know long shots have won the Belmont before, but Il Miracolo's speed figures aren't great. And really this horse is there just to set the pace so that we get a faster pace in this race. So not interested in putting it in any exotics at all. The number 6 horse, Forte. Now, this is the one that, like, we just don't know what to do with this. So Forte is the favorite, 5-2 on the morning line. Rat Ortiz Jr., legendary jockey riding. This is the second of the Todd Pletcher horses. So Forte was going to be the favorite in the Derby and got scratched with a foot injury. Now, from everything I've seen from the workouts, it looks like the foot injury is fine. My concern is this horse hasn't raced in over 2 months. I think it's been about 70 days since the layoff. And you're asking Forte to run its best race on the longest track that these horses are going to deal with. So for me, I don't love Forte to win. You're kind of foolish not to include Forte in exotics. But at 5-2, I think there's better value on the board that we're going to get to. Number 7 horse, Hit Show. This is the second of the 3 Brad Cox horses, Manuel Franco, the jockey. Hit Show ran an okay Kentucky Derby. Never was in contention, but kind of hung in there as a mid-pack horse. I don't think Hit Show is a win contender. I don't think it's a place contender. It's a show contender. Could take 3rd on the board. We're going to include him in the Superfecta when we get to it, but I think this is a levels game, and at least 6 of these horses have a better shot than Hit Show here. 10-1's not enough meat on the bone for me to really want to attack that one. All right, the 8 horse, Angel of Empire, 7-2 on the morning line. Flavian Prat back on the 3rd Brad Cox horse. Classic Empire, the sire. Solid pedigree there. So Angel of Empire is one of my 2 picks to win this race. I thought Angel of Empire ran a really good race at the Derby after starting out, like I mentioned with Tapatrice, way behind the pack, was able to navigate its way, took 3rd place, and with a little more length, I think could have taken 2nd or maybe even won the race. Angel of Empire is the best horse of anybody that's in this race in terms of results from the Derby. None of these horses that ran, they were better than all the other 16 horses. So there's that. I do have a concern here, and that is that Angel of Empire is going to be wearing blinkers for the first time. Now, I can only speculate why Angel of Empire would have blinkers on here. The big reason to me is I would say that unlike the Derby, they want to get Angel of Empire into the middle of the pack early. And so the horse is not bothered in its peripheral vision. They know this pace is going to be pretty fast, so they don't want to fall too far behind and have to leapfrog 6-7 horses to win this thing. But you never know what you're going to get when a horse gets blinkers for the first time. I know they're using blinkers in the workouts, but it's a very big different thing when you're doing workouts on a track with you and maybe one other horse, and then with tens of thousands of screaming people, and just a lot of pressure on this race. So, and a pace that they're probably going to go faster than they have in any of the workouts. So all that being said, I still like Angel of Empire here. I like the Angel of Empire as one of my picks in the Kentucky Derby There's no reason not to like this horse here. Finally, we have Red Route 1 racing out of the 9, 15-1 line. Joel Rosario, another legend as a jockey. This is a Steve Asmussen horse. I'm not going to add much to this. I'm tossing this horse completely. Red Route 1 is the most has the heaviest workload of any horse that we've seen in this race. I don't think the horse is improving. Red Route 1 had a habit of kind of sneaking into the money in a lot of these races. Did take fourth in the Preakness in a 7-horse field. I'm just not impressed here, and it's not a horse that ever gets out to an early pace. It's a stalker. It's going to try to make its run late, but I don't think Red Route 1 is going to be able to catch some of the class in this field. So there's your quick primer on the 9 horses if you're interested. If not, this is the part you're here for. How do we bet the race? Now, again, I'd like to stress, I'm not an expert here. And I'm also not trying to win $5, $10. I'm not interested in just picking a winner. I'm not interested in doing an exacta box. I'm looking at trifectas. I'm looking at superfectas. These are the kind of races that if you're going to hit, you're going to need one of these long shots to hit the board. Now, when I hit the trifecta, and I mentioned earlier, it was a 50-cent bet that paid $491. The reason that happened, though, and I thought I had this up, but I will pull this up right now. The 3 horses that took the win play show, Mage was 15-1, Two Fills was 9-1, Angel of Empire, so just like now, 7-2 odds. When you get horses at 15-1 and 9-1 that hit the board, these payouts can be enormous on a 50-cent bet. Now, with only 9 horses, you're going to need one of these long shots to hit the board. Now, what I'm going to construct here is a custom trifecta wheel. So let's pull up trifecta. And when I talked about who I think is in win contention here, I could make a case for Tapatrice. If Tapatrice runs a perfect race, I think this horse can win. If Forte runs its best race, I don't think anybody in the race catches them. But again, at 5-2 and 3-1 odds, you're not really getting a ton of value to pick this horse. The problem is you're going to need to have somebody in this race that's a little bit of a favorite. And Angel of Empire for me is still the class. I love the Derby race. Like I said, I don't really care about the blinkers so much. If anything, I love that this horse is probably going to be mid-pack and make it easier to catch some of these pace horses like National Treasure and Era Miracolo. And I like the fast pace and how it handled the stretch down at the Derby. So I don't think the distance is going to be a problem here. Angel of Empire is one of my 2 horses that I'm going to pick to win. And Archangelo at 8-1 is going to be my second. Now, part of this is gut feeling, but what I like in this race is, and Jenna Antonucci is, I know horse racing's taken a bad name, taking a bad rap for some of the articles you read about some of the drugs these horses are on, some of the deaths, and there's a lot of horrible things. I would ask you, go Google Jenna Antonucci, see how she came up. She's working on the health side of the horses. She's someone that generally cares, doesn't pref horses to race. They've been holding Archangelo out specifically like for the Belmont. And as I said before with Javier Castellano, this guy won the Kentucky Derby on Mage, obviously sees something in Archangelo that he likes to jockey this horse. So at 8-1, if Archangelo wins this race and our other plays hit, we're in business. Now let's get to how we're going to handle second and third here. So this is where I'm going to add some horses, and the bet's going to be expanded. As you can see on this right side of the screen, the bet is at 0. Once we fill in horses for third, you're going to see what we're spending here. The nice thing about betting horse racing in general, you don't have to spend a lot to win a lot. And that's one of, I think, the more appealing things, especially if you're going to bet a 10-race day and you just want to go cheap. You could spend $2 a race. You could do $2 exacta box. You could spend $20. You're not going to get stuck. If you hit one of them, you're up for the day and you had a great time. So let's look at the horses that I think can come in second. So for Archangelo and Angel of Empire, if we're taking them to win, let's just load them up to hit the board. Out of these other 7 horses, by process of elimination, here's what we're going to get. I'm throwing Era Miracolo out. I'm not interested in this horse coming in second place. Slow speed, going to try to set the pace. It's going to fade. It's going to be passed by almost everybody in this race unless somebody gets an injury. So no interest in Era Miracolo here. I don't have any interest in Hit Show here either. I think that Hit Show's okay. I think Hit Show could probably finish 4th at best, and we'll cover that when we get to the superfectas. But There's so many good horses in this race that even if they run 80% of the best race they can run, I think are just going to be better than Hit Show. Hit Show need an absolutely perfect break. Have to absolutely have no traffic. Just get to the outside immediately. I don't like the odds here. I'm going to throw National Treasure out here too. Now, this is the one where you just have to take a stand here. There's going to be horses that you can't bet everybody in these races. So for me, the one thing, let's see, I threw that one out there. Okay. So I'm throwing National Treasure out here too. And the reason is, as I mentioned earlier, I think National Treasure can get out to the lead. I think it's at the pace. I think can actually have the lead for maybe the 3/4, like to 1 mile mark of this race. But at some point, you're going to see this horses breaking from the pack. You're going to see Forte make a move. You're going to see Angel of Empire going to make a move. You might see Archangelo start making a move. Tappet Trice might make the move. So for me, I don't think National Treasure is going to be able to hold off all these horses, even if it gets to the rail and just like it did in the Preakness and tries to run that same race. I don't think it'll work. I know that Miracolo might push National Treasure to have a faster pace than they did at the Preakness, but I don't think it's going to matter here. So I'm going to take a stand on National Treasure at 5-1, and I'm going to toss him from any contention here. So who does that leave us? That leaves us Tappet Shoes, Tappet Trice, and Forte as the other 3 horses. Oh, and that's the one because I was not scrolling. If you can't tell, I'm new at doing Belmont videos, and it's first day with the new computer and face and mic. I'm tossing Red Rat 1 completely. I mentioned earlier in the breakdown, the horses, this would be the 11th race, I think, in the last 7-8 months. I'm not impressed. I don't think it's improving. It's another levels game comment. Could Red Rat 1 maybe hit the board in 4th? I guess, but I think this is the best field Red Rat 1's ever been against, and I don't see this horse really contending, and I think it's very possible Red Rat 1 could come in last place in this race. I think even Irma Mercolo might be able to hold it off, but we're not betting 8th places here. So that leaves 5 horses that I like to come in second place. Tappet Shoes, Tappet Trice, Archangelo, Angel of Empire, and Forte. Now, Tappet Shoes and Tappet Trice, I mentioned Tappet Trice before not running a great Kentucky Derby, but the sires of Tappet are built for long distance. Again, as I mentioned, 4 of these sires have won the Belmont. Tappet Shoes taking a big step up in competition, but the distance isn't going to be a problem here. And I do think with a little bit of luck, maybe some horses fading, Tappet Shoes can overtake a lot. May not even really be in win contention, but can overtake some horses late. Tappet Trice, same thing, same exact comment, except more experience. Forte, I mean, you're a fool not to include Forte. You're almost not rooting for Forte to come in the money because you don't get paid as big with a 5-2 horse, but hard for me not to include Forte here. And then I'm just going to add the same horses for 3rd because if you like them that much, you're going to play them for 3rd. So we are looking right now at a $12 bet. Not too bad. What do you need to have happen here? Well, you need 1 of your 2 horses to win, Archangelo or Angel of Empire. And then you need any combination of those 5 to take 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be $12. It's 50 cents a bet. It's creating 24 bets for you out of all the possible permutations. If you want to add horses here, your bet will go up, but I guess your odds of winning go up. So if I wanted to include Forte here, you'll see that's $18, which is completely reasonable, by the way. $18 for this configuration where you're really banking on 3 of 5 horses, much like I did at the Derby, to hit the board. I don't think this is a bad play for $18. For me personally, I'm just going to take Forte out because I really think the payoff with Archangelo winning, that's what I'm really looking for here on this kind of bet. $12 is nothing to me. Make that in a week. So that is how I am targeting betting a trifecta ticket here. Now let's go to the superfecta. And the superfecta is going to be now you've noticed this drop down is 10 cents. These things are very cheap bets, but again, you're constructing a very specific 4-leg parlay. Now, everything I just said, I'm applying here. I'm throwing in Archangelo. I'm throwing in Angel of Empire. And for this one, I may throw in Forte. And the reason I will is it's really hard to hit one of these bets. So you kind of want to have all your bases covered. I'm going to throw Forte in for this one. And then we're going to do the same 5 horses that I had before for 2nd. The same 5 horses that I had for 3rd. Where we get a little different is 4th place. Now, even if a long shot hits the board in fourth place, the payout you're going to get is incredible. So I'm going to hit all. I'm not doing a $21.60 bet here. I'm going to take Irma Colo out. I'm going to take Red Rat 1 out. I don't like these horses' chances at all. But I am going to add National Treasure to come in fourth, and I am going to add Hit Show, who I'd be rooting for to hit fourth, because that will beef up the payout. And now we're looking at a $14.40 bet with a bunch of 10-cent plays. It plays similar to the trifecta that I put out before. It does add a few horses for fourth. And if you're doing this kind of bet and you want to reconfigure this just to maybe even be safer, I think you can add National Treasure and Hit Show to take third. I think that's fine. I wouldn't add them to take second, because now you're really kind of hurting your value. But now your bet's up to $24. You're still not spending an arm and a leg to get this kind of bet in. And you've really covered the board, except for you're just fading two horses completely. I did make this mistake with Blazing Sevens last race. It happens. But this is the way I'm configuring it. I am going to fade National Treasure and Hitso to not hit the top three here. $14.40 bet. And if this hits, the trifecta will hit. So you'll be in business and you'd be surprised how much these things pay. Of note, you will not know what this pays until after the race. It's just the way these things are graded. So, but anyway, that is it for me. Thank you for hanging in there. If you can, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the MMA Engine channel. I know this is not MMA content, but we do get one-offs once in a while that we like to provide to you guys if we can. Thanks for hanging in there. If you have questions, find me at Lou Betya on Twitter. I'm always up for conversation. I'm still learning a lot about this, but I'm always excited. 7 p.m. Eastern time from Belmont, New York. Very excited to watch this race. So hopefully you guys join me. And on Saturday, I will be going over all my bets for this, the Champions League, and UFC 289, exclusively on the MMA Engine channel, 11 a.m. on the Lou Betya Jr. Saturday Sports Jackpot Wad, sponsored by Royal Dansk Danish Butter Cookies. See you then. Take care, guys.